here. Hey, Bobby, how are you? Hey, thank you for joining. You guys do me a favor, please share. I am going out here now and sharing. We're about to go live. B. Burwell. Let me share to a few groups. Let's get ready to go. Let's see. Share to a group. Da-da-da. All right. Let's get ready. Hey, Felicia. Thank you for joining. You guys do me a favor. Share. Start a watch group so we can get ready to get started. Okay. She's saying, so once again, because it keeps showing me the one. I'm live. All right, guys, do me a favor. If you are able to have a watch group, please start one or share. If you're in different groups, share. Tonight is another installment of our Epic Live as we count down to the EPI conference, scheduled October the 25th through the 27th. I am so excited about it. We have some phenomenal speakers coming in. And so today I'm actually doing the Epic Live from Washington, D.C. and the nation's capital. I am here for the Black Caucus. And can I tell you how amazing it is? The networking is phenomenal. Today I was able to speak on an entrepreneurs panel, and it was great. And it also got me hyped about the EPI conference. It is going to be on fire. So I'm hoping that you guys are getting prepped and ready to go. We are going to have a phenomenal time October 25th through the 27th. Not only will it be fun, it will be engaging, there will be a lot of networking, but you will leave the conference in a different space. Your mind, your business, everything will be transformed. That is how the conference has been structured. Myself and the rest of the EPI Media Group team have put a lot of work into creating a conference that will be amazing. So again, today we're going live with Attorney Funderberg. As you guys know, we put a lot of energy in selecting the speakers for this year's conference. We wanted to be sure to have experts in their respective fields, individuals that can actually help you with some of the real life issues that you are facing. Attorney Funderburg came highly recommended. And so I wanted to make sure that she was able to come and actually bless our stage this year and be able to help you guys with some of the legal issues and legal questions you have. She will be one of two phenomenal attorneys that we're going to have this year on our panel. We also have attorney Marissa Grayson, and we'll have another live with her a little bit later. But attorney Funderburg is on. I'm about to bring her on so that you guys can meet her and understand. Tonight's session is everything about business, especially legalities of business. A lot of times we start businesses and we get into businesses and not really think about the true aspects and the protection that you need to have as a business owner. And so I'm going to bring Attorney Funderburg on. We had to change up because, as you know, Facebook for technology. So you can see Attorney Funderburg. I think it's some noise in the background, Attorney Funderburg, maybe some music and maybe hard.
Yes, let me see if I can walk away from it.
While you're doing that, I'll keep telling them a little bit more about you.
Okay.
It's so important, guys, that as we start to build businesses, that we're also thinking along the lines of the legal aspects of having a business. As we talk at EPI conference, all of everything that we do is always about creating a legacy. And you cannot create a real legacy for your business and for your family if you're not legally sound, if you do not have your legal protections in place. And so I thought it would actually be fruitless for us to have the EPI conference if we do all this discussion, but we don't talk about the legalities, how to protect your businesses from trademarks, copyrights, and also for any legalities that may come down the way that may try to shut you down for something that may be baseless. So we have Attorney Funderberg. She will be one of our experts this year at the EPI conference. Welcome, Attorney Funderburg.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ebony. Thank you for having me. I am very delighted to be a part of the conference this year and to share some knowledge. I think that's all part of giving back, getting to the place of where we are and where we have reached a certain level of success. Like for me, it's just all about returning that and like providing service to others so that they're able to get their stuff together and monetize moving forward. So I'm very happy that you guys were having me.
So, Attorney Funderburg, can you tell us a little bit about your area of expertise?
Yes, for sure. So I've been licensed as an attorney for 10 years. I'm licensed in both the state of California and in the state of Georgia. So I started my legal career in entertainment law. Working with different independent production companies out in California. And then when I moved to Atlanta, I got into the music industry. That's honestly where I always wanted to be. So, that was perfect. But over the last couple of years, once I've started to kind of find my purpose in life and start to be a little bit more intentional about, once I had my own practice, and it was like, hey, I can actually select my clients and the people that I want to work with, I started to veer more into the small business ownership, helping small businesses like build their businesses, protect their brands, and build their legacies. I'm sorry. I had to make this work. I was running late, so I had to stop and pull over somewhere just so that I could make the live. But yeah, so that involves entity formation and creating all the inter-organizational documents to help people get their businesses set up and on a correct legal footing. And also it involves trademark and copyright, protecting the brand and then also protecting your brand assets. And then also estate planning. So building out the legacy that once you've done everything to create this business, it's all about, I'm a mom, so I'm big on that, leaving something for the future generations to come because, that's really what it's all about at the end of the day.
So Attorney Funderburg, what do you see some of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make with starting a business as it relates to legal matters?
One of the biggest mistakes I see is most people know at this point now, like, oh, I want to start a business, let me create an LLC. And so they kind of just start and stop there. They register with their Secretary of the State and they're like, I'm in business, I got a business. And I'm like, there's a few more steps that need to be done after that to keep you really as a business. So there's something called a legal term called piercing the corporate veil, right? And so the whole point of setting up a business, a separate entity, is to give you protection from personal liability, right? So you have your LLC or you have your corporation set up, but if you're not actually running your business as a business and creating that separation between yourself as an individual and yourself as the actual business owner, you lose that shield of liability. The courts could come in later and say, hey, you have a business set up, but you're really just running this as an extension of yourself. You're not actually doing the things that need to be done to create that separation. So now that personal liability, now we can come after you for personal liability. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I see. Another one is waiting too long to actually do the work. Sometimes I have clients who have been in business for a long time and they come once, something hits the fan and it's like, oh, well, did you, have an entity created? Did you protect your works? Do you have contracts with the people? No. I've been in business for, 3 to 4 years and this has never become an issue. But once it becomes an issue, it's like a catastrophic issue. And the other part is like, especially with the trademarks, a lot of times people look at trademarks as like an expense instead of an investment. And so I always try to get business owners to understand that yes, it's going to cost you, but this is not an expense of your business. This is actually an investment into your business, because now you own your brand. And with brand ownership becomes, gives you the chance for monetization. You know, if your brand builds, you know, goodwill and reputation, you could license that brand to other entities who want to, gain, you know, popularity and monetization off of your goodwill and reputation. And when they wait, they run the risk of somebody else coming up with the same thing and, you know, just beating them to the trademark office. And it's like, hey, I've spent all this time investing in the brand, you know, the brand itself, what it looks like aesthetically, and, you know, what people think of when they see you. And it's like, you know, everybody's out here nowadays, and I see it on social media all the time, you know, like, oh, you know, branding. And branding is very important for every business, but the protection aspect of the brand is equally important, because it just doesn't make any sense to spend all that time developing a brand, investing in a brand that you don't own ultimately at the end of the day.
Now, I've always been told, Attorney Funderburg, that whoever uses it first, whether or not it's been, you know, formally trademarked, that they own it, right? Even though I personally advise all of my clients to go through the formal trademarking process to protect their brands and their assets. But
Mm-hmm.
can you speak a little bit, because I think I've heard a little bit about the poor man's a trademark. You know, you write it down on a sheet of paper, put it in an envelope, mail it off, have the date on it, and be able to
Right.
prove it. So, how sound is something like that?
Okay, so those are two different things. I think you meant the poor man's copyright, because that's what people
Yeah,
do
yeah.
under, you know,
Mm-hmm.
copyright protection. They think that, so copyright and trademark, what I like to let people know is that those rights are like, something that you have without doing anything extra and additional. So copyright and trademark law actually comes from the United States Constitution. So those are rights that you have inherently that don't require you to do anything else. And so that's where that prior use rights and everything comes in with both copyright and trademark. So I'll separate the two, right? So with copyright, as soon as you've created a work of art that's protected under copyright,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to do anything else after you've made that tangible. So let's say I'm a songwriter, right? If I'm thinking of a song in my head, lyrics, I've got these lyrics in my head, that's not copyright. It's not copywritten. But the second I write those lyrics down, they become copyrighted. They're protected under copyright law. But if I register the lyrics with the United States Copyright and Trademark, the United States Copyright Office, then I receive additional protection, because at that point I put the world on notice that, hey, this is my music, I'm the owner of it. And at that point, if somebody came to infringe upon my copyright, they could sue. So one thing that people thought that they could do by, you know, doing the poor man's copyright and putting their lyrics, for an example, in an envelope and mailing it to themselves, was just kind of like creating a record. But that was just based on the misunderstanding that you don't have a copyright as soon as you actually create the work and make it tangible. So
Mm-hmm.
mailing it doesn't do anything additional as far as the copyright law is concerned. Like, you already had it once you put those lyrics in the envelope. Mailing it was just wasting the stamp, you know. But you definitely want to have it registered so that you are able to sue, so that you're able to get statutory damages, so that you then put the world on notice of your ownership in those particular items. But as it refers to trademark, so there is trademark TM, and then there's trademark R. Like, so you'll see those symbols, the encircled R, and you'll see the encircled TM. And so the encircled TM is based on those prior use rights, like first use rights. It's like, hey, as long as I'm using this mark in connection with, you know, these goods or services in my location, then I have rights in that. But your rights are limited to your actual geographic location if you don't do the extra steps to have the mark either state registered or federally registered. So if you get the state registered trademark, then you have those rights throughout the entire state, right? If you don't do any type of registration, your rights are limited to the local geographic location of where you actually do business. But if you take it a step further and get your federal trademark, where you get the encircled R, now you have nationwide rights. And so if somebody came up with, if two people came up with the same marks, right, and one person didn't register theirs, they're just in, you know, Roswell, Georgia, but they never registered their mark, and somebody else comes up with the same mark later, but then goes to the trademark office and beats them, and now they have a federal registered trademark, they can use that mark nationwide and advertise their services everywhere. But that doesn't prevent the initial person who had the mark from being able to advertise it just in their small local geographic locations. So they can't stop them because they do have those common law first use rights, but they're stopped from moving forward as far as like expanding, because those people who have only the common law rights are only protected in their location.
Let me ask a question that I think a lot of people aren't thinking about, but should be.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a global market. I talked about that today, well, earlier today in the Black Entrepreneurial panel.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we do should be on a global scale, but
Mm-hmm.
trademarking and copyright really don't protect you on a global level, correct?
No, they do not. So so obtaining the federal registration here on a nationwide level will make it easier for you when you are trademarking in the other nations, but
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be on a like the European nation has its own set of copyright and trademark laws. So you would still have to obtain a trademark or a copyright in those locations to really receive the protection that you would want in the global market.
So it was nothing to protect you for, let's say you and a partner started some type of business together, and then you guys divested from each other, and
Mm-hmm.
this person moved over to London or over to Nigeria. There's nothing stopping them from being able to take exactly what you built in the US and recreating that in another country.
In another country. So you would have some sort of grounds, especially under that particular situation, because then you have like unfair competition and things like that, because you guys were actually a partnership, right? And so then you could allege other civil acts against them, uh, unfair competition and, misappropriation or things like that, right? But as far as the copyright and trademark law is concerned, that protection is not granted on a global level just because you have it here. What it will do is prevent, you will have rights where you could prevent other countries from bringing in like your trademark goods, because you do have national trademark protection here in the States. So it's like if that person left and went to somewhere else and then was trying to ship some of those goods under that name and things like that here, you would have protection under in that way.
Okay, we have a question here. Someone said, what if it's an online brand and you are selling nationally? How is
Mm-hmm.
geographic locations established?
How was the geographic location established?
Yes.
So wherever you are located. So you have an online store, right? But wherever it is that when you're creating your business, you have to register that business in a certain state or location. So that's where you are building that presence for first use rights for
Mm-hmm.
certain. But and that's why I tell people all the time with the internet, it's really incumbent on you to get the federal trademarks, because you're automatically going to be advertising and marketing and promoting to everyone everywhere just because of the internet. So
So let me ask you this. So we talked about copyrights, we talked about trademarking, and then there's patents. So from a patent perspective, if I were to get a new product patent in the US, again,
mhm.
if I protect it globally, because someone else, because that protect me from a Chinese counterpart coming in and quote unquote counterfeiting or creating the exact same product.
It would prevent them from being able to bring that product here. Like you would have a suit against them here. So I don't know patents, so that's one thing. I'm like, let me give you a disclaimer on that. First of all, I tell people all the time I know enough about patents to know that I should just leave them alone. That's definitely not my specialty or area of
Well, the reason
expertise.
why I asked that Funderburg is because I've seen several small businesses go
Mhm.
because they've had great ideas. They're limited in capital, and
Mhm.
another business overseas that has more
Mhm.
capital sees the actual product,
Mhm.
reproduce it, and then they're doing mass production, and then the
Right.
original small business that came up with that concept and idea is now out of business.
Right. And so do you know if in that case were they protected under the intellectual property laws to begin with?
I don't
Because
know that, because
what happens is
how do you sue someone internationally?
oh, you would have to sue them where they are. That's one thing I do know, and that's the other thing. So I'm not a litigation attorney. I do only transactional stuff. So when it comes to court stuff, I'm not the best person to talk to. But from what I do know is you need to sue them. You always have to sue the defendant where they are.
And
And
so
so
most
it would
small businesses, like let's say
can't
that
afford
they
to,
can't
yeah,
afford to go over to
exactly.
China or to India or somewhere else, and those companies know that.
Right, and that's why they do what it is that they do. But if you obtain the protection here in the United States on a national level, what you're able to do is then prevent that from coming here, at least, like to the extent you have control over. As soon as you become aware of it, once those things start being sold here and other people in the States, if somebody else is buying them wholesale from a distributor, let's say in China, because they've copied it, now you can sue those people who can come after the people overseas, because that's your protection is only limited to the States when it
So let's
comes
talk
to
about some of the
intellectual
stuff that's
property.
here. Let's talk about some of the stuff that's here in the States. Were you familiar with there was a couple of designers who they when Khloe Kardashian was Good American, they had claimed that some of her designs
Mhm.
were a replica of something they created. Again,
Mhm.
the small business,
Mhm.
not many small businesses have enough revenue to be able to go up against the mammoth of the Kardashians.
Right.
What does a small business do in the state of they have a great product, but this other person or entity, their money is just
And that happens more often than not, honestly. And so there are some attorneys who, if you have a very good, solid case, who will take those cases on a contingency type basis, because once they look at the facts and circumstances of what's going on and they can see that there's been a clear infringement, they know that they're going to get paid at the end of the day. So they're going to take the chances, go through the court case, through the process, and then just take their money out of the settlement. But when it's those cases where it's kind of like, it's not as open and shut, then attorneys aren't always willing, who take cases on contingencies, aren't willing to take that gamble. Lawsuits take years, they cost lots of money. And so if there's no guarantee, like they can't see that from the outset, then they're not going to take it. And with the individual who doesn't have that clear cut, open and shut case, they either are going to have to find an attorney who is affordable for them to be able to move forward, or try to settle it pre-litigation. So that's what I do with a lot of my clients, and I inform them at the outset that I don't do litigation. We'll look at your case, examine the facts and circumstances of it. I will help you on a semi-contingency type basis. Just take something smaller up front, walk through the process of, sending the cease and desist and demand letters and things like that to see if we can get them to settle, and let them know, like, hey, if it doesn't settle, you are going to have to end up seeking, litigation counsel. But sometimes we do end up getting the settlement without going to court, because when the cases are good, they're not going to want to go up against it either. Like they kind of look at it, they do a balancing act. If it's like, hey, okay, it's a lot more clear here, we may just want to cut our losses here and just throw them a few bucks and, keep our names out of the news and that type of thing. So I wouldn't be afraid of the fact that, like, hey, we're just a small business, because as an attorney, I've done that for other small businesses, other clients and things like that, gone up against the big dogs and have never had to go through litigation, because we've had strong enough evidence, and it was like clear-cut evidence of infringement. So, like, that's not necessarily something that you should be afraid of. You should definitely always assert your rights and fight for your rights to the extent, the fullest extent possible.
That's right. Because that's one of the things that I think a lot of people are afraid of, the small businesses, is what they don't know. And all of they feel as if there's a boogeyman waiting for them on the other side of the
Right.
door, because the monster is in the details. And then many times we find out what we should have known when it's a little too late.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so
And one thing I was going to,
go
go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off. I was like, one thing that I've learned over years of experience in dealing with, especially in the entertainment industry, because a lot of times I'm going up against, the major labels. All my clients are like indie artists, you know what I mean? And so it's like, oh, are they really going to listen to us? And sometimes they will, flex their muscle. But at the same time, like I said, when when you can show that, hey, like this is what's going on, you guys infringe. This is what you would be up against if we did take this to court, and we are willing to go that mile, even if our client doesn't have the money to go that extra mile. We're definitely making it seem as though we do, and we will. So like we're moving forward on this, regardless, and that'll get you a little bit more traction. But the one thing, and that's what I was trying to say, I'm sorry, I'm losing track, is that when dealing with, the major companies and things like that, like they're just, the people on the other side are just people too. You know what I mean? And at one point in time, they were a small business. So it's like, never have that fear of like, oh, I'm lowly small business owner, and this person, just because they have this big corporate veil to hide behind, that they're more qualified or more educated or more equipped to handle the situation than you are, because a lot of times they're not. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
So Attorney Funderburg, as we get ready to close out, let me ask you, what are some of the biggest errors that you've come across in your career that you've seen small businesses do? What are some of the biggest, I guess, common errors that you've seen?
Not have things in writing, for sure. Do a lot of handshake deals. A lot of times people are nervous for whatever reason, that, once they bring out a contract, that it's going to scare, the other party who was like, on the other side or willing to do something. And I'm like, it kind of has the opposite effect, if anything, because people then know that you're serious about your business, that you have a fuller understanding about your business, and that you're willing to assert your rights to the extent necessary if something were to go wrong. And so I see that a lot, just no contracts, or dealing in contracts and knowing like, oh, okay, we need them, but not having somebody advise them on them, because they have a lot of conversations beforehand, and then they think, oh, this agreement is going to memorialize everything that we spoke about. And so it's like, yeah, we talked about this, talked about that. And so when they gave me the contract, I just signed it, thinking that that was what we discussed, and then it's something totally different. And then later on, once things starts happening, transactions are rolling, that's when you realize like, oh, I didn't sign what I think I signed. So really just not getting advice and counsel earlier on in the game. A lot of times people, it seems like, in my experience in dealing with small businesses, is that they don't have enough faith in themselves and their abilities to like really do well, to actually like make those investments, or they're so worried about like making the money right then and there, that they're like, I can't waste it on getting all my stuff together. I'll do that later. I'll do that later. But again, that's one of those things where later just never comes. And then when it does, you know, it's at the worst time possible. So,
I would definitely say it's imperative that you, as a small business owner, have a attorney.
mm-hmm.
It is so important. I think if you're going into business and you do not have an assigned attorney that helping you from a contractual perspective, that's helping you from a trademark, copywriting perspective, and someone that's ready for litigation. Because I keep a litigation attorney ready.
Yes.
You
Yes.
better have one, because when you go into business, you automatically become a target for those
Yeah.
that are around, and whether you know it or not. And so you have to protect your assets, because the business is, yes, it's great. It can be an asset, but at the same time, as you mentioned earlier, it can end up becoming a
A
liability to your
liability.
family if
Mm-hmm.
you are sued and you're not properly protected. You can lose everything. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
very important legally that you are covered and protected. So one of the things I will tell everyone that is listening and listening and looking, come prepared with your legal questions. We're going to have both Attorney Funderburg and Attorney Grayson on site, and we are going to be answering those tough questions that you have around your business. We're going to be talking about copyrights. We're going to talk about trademarks. We're going to talk about patents. We're going to talk about litigation. Attorney Grayson does that. She's both of them can talk about entertainment law. We're going to talk about partnerships, how to
Mhm.
get into partnerships and how to dissolve partnerships, and also how to dissolve a business properly. So some of the things we talk a lot about as in business is making sure we have the right documentation to ensure that our business is structured properly. But what we
Mhm.
don't talk about is properly dissolving a business to also
Mhm.
ensure that you do not have liability sitting out there that you're not aware of years down the road. So all of these
Absolutely.
things are things we're going to talk about at the EPI conference again. It is October 25th through the 27th. It is in Atlanta, Georgia. We have a wonderful lineup of speakers. We have, this is just some of the few: Stormy Wellington, Dr. Mila Bennett, Dr. Jamal Bryant, Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, Sassy Jones, of course, Attorney Funderberg, Attorney Grayson, um, Gerard Smith. The list just continues to go on and on and on. I'm so excited about October 25th to 27th. It's going to be a weekend that will transform your business and transform your mind. Our goal is to give you more confidence to boldly walk into that next level of business and do it safely, protected, and aware. So again, if you are interested in attending the conference, it is www.theepiconference.com. It's October 25th through the 27th. Any questions anyone has, please feel free to inbox me, and I definitely want to see you there. Thank you so much, Attorney Funderburg, for joining with us this evening, and I will see everyone again next week. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.